Andrew Sivula is a frequent flyer based out of Washington, D.C., who flies for leisure around the world. His long-distance trips help him get to Diamond Medallion status on Delta Airlines. Here's his flying story. Hi everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I am continuing my interviews with people who fly very frequently, and today I have another person who is also a Diamond Medallion on Delta Airlines, which means he flies very frequently, at least 125,000 miles a year, or he meets the thresholds to get to the level by other metrics. Andrew Sivula is my guest today. Andrew, welcome to my channel. How are you today?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure to speak to other people who are frequent travelers. And of course, times are very different right now. So the frequent travelers are among the infrequent travelers these days as things have changed. And I think you do fall into that category. So I'd like to talk to you about what status you have now, Delta's extension of status, and what your thoughts are on what Delta should do in the future for status. As we all know, Delta has rolled over status to basically emulate what you had in this year to the next year. But what about the future? Are you going to be traveling that much? Things that we'll talk about. So we'll get started with talking about the basics. Where are you based, Andrew?
I'm based out of Washington, D.C. My primary airport is DCA with a secondary of BWI. Okay. I live within the district and within walking distance of Union Station. So both stations are relatively easy for me to get to.
Okay. So yeah, that's a pretty easy ride for you. Now, being in DC with DCA and BWI being your primary airports, those aren't Delta hubs. You've got in DCA American Airlines and at BWI Southwest. So I understand that it's easy for you to get to the airport, but why are you flying on an airline that really doesn't have a lot of service out of...
Well, they do have a good amount of service. I mean, DCA, Delta has their own terminal, basically, the B terminals. There's probably about, I think, probably 8 or 9 gates out of the 30 or 40 gates. So they have about a quarter of the flights. Mm-hmm. I fell into Delta probably about 10 years ago, and they had the best prices for where I was going. I was flying back and forth to Tucson, along other places in the country, and, just chose Delta and Skyteam. And have been completely happy ever since, especially since they have the best on-time arrival out of the 3 majors.
Yeah.
So you never hear me complaining about, I'm delayed in Dallas again.
Yeah. Yeah, those are definitely important factors. Of course, price and on-time performance. I know one issue with Dallas is the thunderstorms that can sometimes happen over there. But a lot of people, they choose their carrier for specific reasons, and that works out for you. And you say you go to Tucson. Tucson's not always the easiest place to get to from the East Coast. There are not a lot of nonstop flights from any airports on the East. Yeah, I'm in New York City, and I don't think I've ever seen a nonstop on any carrier out of all the airports that we have here to Tucson. So no matter what, you got to connect.
Actually, American has a nonstop from New York City. Yes, really? It's they did. It may be seasonal, mm-hmm. But they did start it up. Mm-hmm. But that said, one stop from Atlanta or one stop from Atlanta or one stop from Minneapolis is never a bad flight.
Exactly. Yep. No, I enjoy connecting in those airports. I actually look forward to connecting at some of those airports, to be honest with you, sometimes. Where I live here in New York, we've got basically nonstops to everywhere. So I have not been connecting as often as I almost want to in many cases. And yeah, I'll admit sometimes I do take extra flights just for the miles, just to get to the level of status Delta each year. So I think we're pretty much in the same boat with that. Is your travel primarily for work or for pleasure or leisure or obligation?
It's all pleasure. My work does not send me anywhere. Unfortunately, I wish they did.
Yeah, that would give you some more opportunities to rack up the miles.
Yes.
So how long have you been traveling primarily for leisure?
I started because of my family is across the country, and I wanted to visit them. I never thought that I would be a diamond when they introduced it in 2009, 2010. Mm-hmm. I was like, how could I fly 125,000 miles in a year? That will never happen. 4 years later, and I'm a diamond medallion. So, thanks to mostly international trips.
Oh, so international definitely helps you then. Yeah.
Yes. Mostly ultra long hauls. I started by going to South Africa, to Cape Town, and doing that a couple of times, plus finding a cheap flight out of JFK to Narita when that existed.
Yeah.
Helped as well. So.
Yeah, I do very similar flights as you. I'm primarily domestic, but I always add on maybe 1 or 2 long hauls each year just to get to that particular level of status. So just talk a little bit about domestic. As you're flying and, now that you're a diamond, how often do you get upgraded on these particular flights that you're taking? Does it happen quite often, or is it a 50-50, or what is
Actually, to be honest, not as much as you would think, because I'm buying the low fare classes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The cheap fare classes, I don't get. I'm always, first loser, number 1 on the list, number 2. Occasionally, some of the leisure flights, like to Tucson, like from Atlanta to Tucson or Minneapolis, Tucson, that's my biggest upgrade opportunity.
Yeah.
And then I just came back from Tucson, and going to Tucson, I actually got upgraded to first class at 3 days out on all 3 of my segments to Tucson. And then my segment from Tucson to Atlanta, I got upgraded. And then from Atlanta to DC, I was like 6 on the list. So.
Yeah. So let's talk about, now we're talking a little bit about domestic, what you've been doing this year. How many flights have you taken at all during the year 2020 so far?
I've only taken a total of 7 segments. Mm-hmm. So basically 2 flights. I did a round trip from, it was a BWI, Minneapolis, Salt Lake City, Tucson, and then Tucson, Atlanta, DCA. And then earlier in the year, I did a Sarasota, Atlanta, DCA. We actually took Amtrak down to Tampa because of COVID. We felt, it's easier. We get a bedroom, spend the night on the train, be socially distanced, not have to worry about flying.
But you did on the way back, though.
I did on the way back. It was because I was coming back by myself. It was just as easy. Didn't have concerns, personal concerns of Florida that we had to care for.
Yeah. So you did that trip during what month, the Florida trip?
May. We did that in May.
So at that time, Florida was actually pretty hot with the coronavirus cases. And it looks like you took another trip just a week ago. So compare the two. What was the experience like? Did you notice any changes? Were things heightened at all? Things are constantly changing with the coronavirus in the United States. Unfortunately, as we're talking now, it's kind of increasing and getting a little bit worse. But what was it like then compared to now?
Really, there wasn't much change. There were still, everybody had to wear masks unless you were actively eating or drinking. This past trip, because I was doing a little bit longer segments, there was beer and wine service, as well as the snack boxes, the crave boxes that they had. So at least in first class, so everybody actually was eating and drinking in first class. Mm-hmm. Mind you, it was only less than 60% full. So only one person in each row. So it really wasn't that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm. And did you eat the food on the airplane during the flight?
I did. Okay. I did.
I didn't. I waited because I didn't like the fact that everyone had their masks off all at the same exact time. I love the fact that everyone is required to wear the masks. But if you're going to take them all off at the same time, I don't think there's any point. That's my personal opinion, which is one of the reasons why I have not really traveled too much. It's just that one moment during meal service, which kind of irks me a little bit, just to see multiple people. So my thought was actually that the flight attendant should kind of just stagger the meal service, where you start off with maybe seat 1A, then go to 5D, then go to 10F, and kind of back and forth. I don't know if it's feasible though.
No, but it wasn't. Everybody didn't like. At least on my flight, take it all off at the same time. You grab the box. You know, people were taking it off for a second to drink water or their beer. That was, or the wine. That was the big thing.
Mm-hmm. And the airport experience, what was it like for you out of DCA? I flew out of DCA last year. It was super, super crowded, although fantastic Sky Club. Love it upstairs with a view up there, great food and everything. Did you go to the Sky Club in DCA at all?
I think I did for a few minutes. Since I lived well, this last trip, I actually flew out of BWI.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there's no club there. So because I live so close to the airport, I'm one of those people that always push it. And since I usually only carry on bags, I'm getting to the airport 40 minutes ahead of time or 30 minutes ahead of time. Yeah. So I'm getting through security and boarding is beginning.
Right. Okay. So no time for that at all. Right. Great. So I do want to talk a little bit more about, putting the pandemic to the side, how people get to their goals of status. And let's talk about some more of your international travel experiences. You get to a certain point and you're taking these trips. Are you doing it primarily for the mileage, or are you doing it for other reasons?
The mileage is always on my mind, but it's always going places I want to go to. Mm-hmm. So I want to go to, Thailand. Well, how do I get to Thailand and maximize my points? Be it, in my case, I fly China Eastern because they have the least, or they have had in the past, the least expensive business class fare out of New York City or LA. Mm-hmm. So, when you can get a sub $2,000 ticket all the way across the world in business class, it's hard not to say take that.
That's pretty good. So you purchased it directly in business class?
Yes. With the partners I do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or I'll
mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
You're doing it all on Delta's website?
China Eastern, I go directly through their website. Mm-hmm. When I fly through KLM, I'll do it on Delta's website, and that time I'll use an upgrade certificate if there's an availability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did that most recently for my last international flight. It was Minneapolis to Amsterdam on Delta, and then my connecting flight was on KLM, and 100% using my global upgrade certificates, which was absolutely fantastic to be able to sit in those lie flat seats on the Delta airplanes. KLM, did you connect on KLM at all when you were in Europe?
I actually flew directly. My last few flights have been directly on KLM.
Oh, they were
from Dulles. So I connect to KLM down to South Africa.
Okay. So you're on wide body aircraft all the time?
Yes.
Okay, right. That's nice. I took a small 737 and I sat in the KLM Euro first class, which is basically a coach seat with an empty seat next to you. So have you been on any of those at all?
Yes and no. I was on a KLM, like a short haul that was upgraded on from Amsterdam to Gothenburg in Sweden. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like that was actually a different, like a dedicated first class, because it did not feel like the blocked middle seat.
Interesting. And that's a short flight, yeah.
It was a very short flight, but they had a food service and a full drink service. So I
did have food service on my 737, but it was just, like I said, just a regular seat. So, but KLM is absolutely fantastic, and I really enjoy connecting in Amsterdam at the KLM Crown Lounge. I actually had I believe it was a 7-hour layover in Amsterdam. So I tried both of them. It was a great experience. Have you been to the KLM Crown Lounges?
Just the one, the international one, the non-Schlegen one.
Okay. Which one is that? Is that the one where they have the little houses where you go up the escalator?
Yes, that's the one. That's the one they just finished redoing.
Much nicer than the other one. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the only one that I've had the chance to go to. And my connections have only been a couple of hours for the most part. Mm-hmm. I've had a 6-hour one a few years ago before they redid it. But it's always nice to get there and then maybe take a shower get your thing, you take a shower when you get off the plane and get refreshed and have some snacks, some stroopwafels.
Yeah, exactly. Although it was a little bit crowded, the line for the shower, you actually had to check in, and it was about a 25-minute wait or so just to take a shower. Did you experience that?
Oh, yes. Even when you get in at 6 a.m., it can be 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah, I tried both because I had so much time, and I was a little bit confused. Just, once you land in Amsterdam, you're kind of just in this open area where you're not really going through customs, and there's stores, which you really don't expect for most international arrivals. So it's a little bit different than other airports, especially in the United States. Well, it's similar to the United States, but it's a different experience, I have to say, going through Amsterdam. But very fun. There's a lot of walking, too, to get to your gates.
Yes.
There, yeah, good. And then what about some other international experiences that you've had? What other airlines? You said KLM, China Eastern, was it?
China Eastern. I've also flown in for a Delta into Narita.
Mm-hmm.
That's a nice airport.
Mm-hmm. Did a connection there once, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Even though Delta's leaving it, so I've not flown into Hyundai yet.
Haneda? Is it Haneda or?
Haneda. Yeah, Haneda.
Yeah.
The other Tokyo airport.
Correct. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I've connected in Seoul before. That was a lot of walking from the international to the transfer. Mm-hmm. It felt like it was an hour worth of walking, but it really wasn't.
Yeah.
And then Shanghai Pudong.
You've been all over Asia.
Yeah. Well, it's somewhere different. So that's where I felt that I'd like to go to. So.
Great. So we are in 2020. You're not doing a lot of travel. Well, I completely understand why you're not doing the travel. Of course, you're not allowed to for some countries. And once you get there, if you are allowed, there's really nothing to do. What are your thoughts on the future for next year? I'm very grateful for the fact that status has been extended another year. What are your personal thoughts on that? And do you think that if status is not extended, will you be working hard to get to that next level? Do you think threshold should be lowered? What are your thoughts on that?
I really can't say. It depends on how things open up next year. If the vaccines actually work and nations start to open up, then I think that everything should be how it is normally. If it isn't, and we're in another year of virtually no travel, Delta might change the thresholds. It's whatever makes sense to them business wise, since the Sky Miles is such a revenue driver for them. Now that they have a hard time with flights. So personally, if I don't have my international travel, I won't make Diamond and I'll miss it.
Yeah. But
I'll do it. I'll survive a year or two and then get my status back,
Yeah, exactly. I think I'm in a very similar situation as you. And I did actually have more than usual number of international trips planned for this year, which I had to completely cancel. And they were booked right before the pandemic. And again, for the purposes of getting the extra miles and to see some new places. I actually had one that was going to be connecting on Virgin Atlantic, which is also a partner of Delta's, which is an airline I'd love to have experienced, but didn't get that opportunity. So it's about, it's about experiencing different things and getting the miles for me. So I think you and I are pretty much on a very similar level when it comes to all that. Some airlines I did hear are actually, have you heard, I think it's American Airlines, are actually lowering their thresholds.
America and United have listed that their thresholds are changing in 2021, I believe. But, it's whatever they feel they need. But then United is completely revenue-based that they just changed to in 2019.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I figure that's why they had to do with that. And then American, everybody's in a hard spot.
Absolutely. Have you flown on any other carriers recently, or are you just stick
no.
with Skyteam?
So I have not flown. The only airline that I have not flown that is not Skyteam in the last 10 years was when I was in Norway, and I had to fly Widerøe and SAS because there was no other choices.
No other options, yeah. Mm-hmm.
and that was, my Vitero flight was on a Dash 4.
Oh wow!
So it was a 60-mile flight from an island to a secondary airport.
Wow, I don't even know where that is.
It's up in Norway. The airport's called Leknes. It's north of the Arctic Circle and the Lofton Islands.
Wow.
And the airport is Bodø, which is like a hub of northern Norway.
Wow.
And then I flew SAS from that down to Oslo.
Mm-hmm.
And then flew Delta from Oslo back to the United States.
Yeah. And domestically, I'm assuming 100% Delta, correct?
It is 100% Delta.
Right. And is primarily with the goal of, staying within the network and maintaining your status.
Network status and, when you have the perks, why not use them? So, for me, while upgrades are nice, having free checked bags is also nice.
Absolutely. That and Sky Club access too, which
Sky Club, because I went ahead and as one of our choices, as people know in Delta, I always choose the Sky Club.
I do too. Mm-hmm.
And then I'll use my miles to upgrade it to the executive.
Yep.
So I can bring a guest with me.
I did the same thing too, just to impress the people who I'm with, whoever it might be. So I'll always invite two of them. Actually, I always invite them to the Sky Club whenever I'm traveling. So.
Well, for me, it's my partner. Mm-hmm. We don't travel a lot together, but when we do, I always want to make sure that I can bring her in. I don't have to worry about paying extra money. Mm-hmm. It's just as easy just to do it that way. And then if I am traveling with somebody, I can always say, hey, come with me. We have a place away from everybody and just sit down and rest. Yeah,
and the good thing about that is that the person who's there also doesn't even need to be on your flight. They just need to be flying on Delta. So I've been in situations where I'm flying out of the airport at a time where I know a friend is flying out and they don't have any status at all, and just invite them into the Sky Club just to be there also. So it's a great benefit if you're looking to impress people too. So yes. Absolutely. So is there within the Delta network or anywhere at all, is there a particular airplane that you really enjoy to fly on? Or not?
I really did like. I still do the domestic 757.
Really,
and really because of it's the only domestic narrow body that you turn left on, because you board two left or 2R, mm-hmm. and then it's the only one that if you're first class you turn left.
Yeah. You really get the feel of being on an exclusive private jet when they're boarding through that second boarding door. It's absolutely amazing.
Yes. So that's the only domestic one. Mm-hmm. Always, the 767s that they use for transcons is always nice as well if mm-hmm. you get upgraded.
Yeah, on the Delta One cabin, they've been using those a lot from JFK to LAX. And I've flown on them a few times just across the pond because that's just the aircraft that was in use for those particular routes. Very, very nice. And I had the opportunity to fly in the Delta One cabin. So it was great. And I didn't pay for it either. So just using my, like you, I always purchase the best available fare and I'll always upgrade myself to the Comfort Plus. And if it's a especially long flight, I'll use those upgrade certificates, whether regional or global, to upgrade myself into the Delta One cabin. It's a great experience. Absolutely. And the 757 is actually my favorite aircraft. However, they are a little bit dated on the inside. So I can't speak for the interiors of them as much, but it's a great airplane to fly on. I love the beauty of the 757. And they're, like I said, a little bit dated inside. They are older aircraft, but the best thing about the 757 are the large windows. So I'm a photo guy, so I'm there with my phone just taking pictures of every single moment out the window. And you can't do that as much on an A320 with the smaller windows. So I absolutely love flying on those airplanes and the special cabin feel of turning left when you board. It's funny, a couple of times I've been in the first class cabin of the 757, and the plane gets to the gate, and some passengers I was sitting in the first row, a couple of people who were behind me forgot that they boarded from behind, so they all stand up and start walking towards the front of the aircraft to get off, and the flight attendant saying that way. And they look at them, but the door's over there. Like, oh, that's right. We're using that door for boarding.
Yes.
So it's definitely exclusive. And I really, really like the exclusivity of that. And it's funny, as a side note, as I was explaining in my previous interview, I really enjoyed this new boarding process of Delta boarding from the rear forward. I don't know how you feel about that. For two reasons. Number one, I think it's just safer that way, so you don't have to pass by other people, even though everybody is masked. But on my flight that I did take over the summer, they did make an announcement that Diamond Medallions in first class can board at any time during the boarding process. I didn't do it. I'm normally the guy who stands at the head of the doorway, as I want to be the first one on the airplane, get the overhead bin space. But I'm telling you, I absolutely love this new process of boarding rear forward. I made sure I was the last one on the airplane. It felt like an exclusive experience for me. It felt like I was special.
Kind of. I did the same thing. I sat in the thing. And I'm like, well, I'll just wait since I've got a first class seat. I don't have to worry about the overhead bin because I only have a small backpack with me anyway today, and I don't have a seatmate. So there's no reason to get on the plane right away.
Exactly. And also they're not doing the pre-flight departure beverages also in first. But I'm telling you, I really, really enjoyed it. And like I said, more than anything, I just felt special being the last person on the airplane. I never thought I would say that because I always want to be the first one on the airplane. Yes. But it was a good experience. I get on the airplane. I was sitting in the first row. And as soon as I sit down, the door closes and then we're off. There was no waiting. It kind of got rid of that awkward situation where people are staring at you when you're boarding. You're looking at everybody coming in, you're looking at them, what are you thinking about these people and all that? All that's gone. You just get on the airplane and that's it. Door closed and you leave the gate and you're in the air. And who knows, maybe even if they do decide to keep that process in permanently, they probably still would have enough time for the pre-departure beverage anyway. I mean, there's always a few minutes. By the time you push back off the gate, it's going to take at least 5 minutes or so. Yes. So I really like that experience. Great. Well, is there anything else, Andrew, that you'd like to share with us today about your experices? It sounds like you and I are very much on a very similar level here.
Yes, exactly. And no, I think that's everything. Right now, I'm looking forward to it. Like you, I had international trips that I had to cancel or not even complete. Like I was planning on going to India this year. That obviously did not happen. So I'm looking forward to next year. I'm hoping that the vaccines that are coming out now are effective and that we can open everything up and travel.
Absolutely. Things have changed tremendously. I completely agree with you. I can't wait to get that vaccine. I'm reading about it constantly in the news, especially last couple of days. I really, really have this urge to get back up into the sky. And like you, most of my travel is primarily for leisure. And there's a huge world out there, so many places to explore, even within our own country, so many new places that we can go to that we haven't been to. And things are just really holding us back right now. So it's definitely a tough period, but things will get better and we will be in the air soon. So.
Yes.
All right, Andrew. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. For my viewers out there, thank you very much for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like this video. And don't forget to click on the bell button so that you're alerted as to every time I post a new video for you. Stay tuned for more videos. And of course, if you'd like to be featured in any of these videos, just leave a message in the comment section below and I'll definitely read it and consider you for a video. Thanks, everybody. Thank you again, Andrew.
Thank you.